Alright, draft physics video. We'll get to the comments. We're still on this stupid special relativity subject, which we've been over and over. And again, I keep pointing out there's one major defect. There's lots of defects in my opinion, but one that just can't fix. And it just has to do with light being certain rules. That light moves a constant speed that you can't change, and it moves in a straight line. And those two rules, in my opinion, are incompatible with special relativity. You can't make it work in terms of the light clock argument. So again, the idea of a light clock is that it takes light a certain amount of time to cover distance, and if you reflected it back and forth, you could have a light clock. Theoretically, if you made it, obviously if you made it a 1 second clock, it could be very, very long, but you could just have it so a little light went on every time the light went 1 second. But it would be 1 second in distance, which would be 300 million meters. So, 3 million meters, sorry. Okay. So every time it travels 300 meters, the light would go on. And if you have it the right distance, then the light would always go on one end. Something like that. And that would be a light clock. And whenever the light was at this end and the light didn't go on when it was right at this one side, then you know it was out of sequence, and you know there's a reason for that. Something's changed, the distance has changed. But that's the only way you could do it, is to change the distance, because you can't change the speed of light. Alright, so the simple argument is that when you shoot the photon, it's an independent agent. So the emitter is now irrelevant. And unlike a baseball in a bus, there's no forward velocity. The photon has none. The baseball, if I throw a baseball across a bus, the illusion is that you don't only see this motion, but the baseball is really going forward, and the next guy throws it and he throws it forward. It's going forward the speed of the bus. This photon isn't doing that. It's going straight for where you shot it, which if it was a planet over here outside the window, that's what you shot it at, this planet. And if it goes through some hole over here in the future, it can't get to this planet. So it's not going where you shot it. It's not going in a straight line. So the idea is that at any variation, this is the shortest distance to this wall. There's no other way you can hit this wall a shorter way than this way. If in the future the hole's here and you want to get through it, you have to go this longer distance. And this longer distance you can't do in the same time. And time is what decided how far away this was. So you come up short. And so if you try to aim ahead, you're still going to end up with the same problem, because you can't change the fact that you're short. So if you say, okay, well, let's count this amount of time, okay, as our unit of time, where it hits, where I make it hit. I'll aim ahead, okay, and this is the point I'll aim ahead to. Well, that's not going to do you any good, because that added more time, which means the hole ended up here now. So no matter where you aim, the hole will always be ahead of you. Because the length, the distance, you can't fix it. There's no shorter distance. Every other distance is a longer distance. And so it doesn't, wherever I aim, if I pick a spot and I say this is the spot, well, the problem is going to be this is your new baseline. This is your new line, this. And all you're going to do is say, well, how far would this thing be in the same amount of time as it takes light to travel to here? So this length, we say, how many units of time does it take at light speed to get from here to here? This distance. So it just ends up being a new baseline. And that new baseline is going to create the same problem, and your hole is going to end up ahead of you again. So you can't do this reflect off mirror thing. You can't do this stuff. You can't hit it. And the point is if you did, your clock wouldn't be telling accurate time. It's telling the wrong time because the distance is too long. You've ruined the time clock. It's not doing what it's It's not doing the amount of distance in a specific amount of time. The distance is off, so the timing is off. So it's not a time clock anymore, and it's not telling time correctly. And it'll tell worse time. The faster you go, the worse the time it's telling it'll do. But it won't work anyway, is my point. Let's stick to the point. You can't do it. You can't hit a spot in the future when the future is moving away from you. As much as you'd like to pretend you can aim at it, you really can't. You can't hit it. Just like you can't hit this spot in the same amount of time, in the appropriate amount of time. Because this is going to go further away, just as it did here. This is the amount of distance light can do in 1 second, let's say. And this is where the spaceship hole is in 1 second. That's the problem. You've got a gap there. And that gap is always going to show up. And I can analogize it again. People keep saying, well, we're not claiming photons are baseballs. Yes, you are. The motion is exactly the same as a baseball. The motion you're projecting the photon to have. So you're doing exactly that. And what would I have to do if I was on a bus? The easiest thing to do is throw it out the perpendicular window. I throw it the least fast to do that. If I want to throw it out a forward window or forward or further, the further the window ahead I want to throw it out, the harder I have to throw the ball. That should give you a clue. But yeah, you need more velocity to do that. You need more velocity to get further into the future. You need even more extra speed. Is there any other way I can say this to make this understandable? See, I think what they're doing mentally in their head is they're thinking, okay, this is the perpendicular distance, and this is how far the ship moves this way in the time. So the hole is now here when the photon is going to go through. And again, so it's just, let's just pretend for the sake of argument this isn't a longer line, which of course it is. I think what they're doing is saying, well, if we go to the 2 second mark, this is where the hole will be in 2 seconds. Well, the photon's going to go really far in 2 seconds. That's a much longer line. Look how long 2 seconds is. That's a really long line. That'll get through this hole no problem with extra to spare. But you can't do that. That's cheating, because this is now the mark of the time it took to get to this point. This more than a second, 1 second ahead. So we know 1 second isn't this anymore. It's this longer line. That's the line you made. That's the one you're saying you did. So I'm just saying, if you say you can do that, then to do this other line, this is the new base. I think I said it backwards. But the point is you'll always come up short, because to go further in less time is what you're requiring it to do. And it can't do that. Alright, just stick to the baseball. And throwing the baseball, you're at the back of the bus, and you want to throw the baseball through the first window on the right. You know you have to throw it much harder to get it all the way to that first window. Oh, cat. Ugh, that's inconvenient. Because you'll probably want some food, and it's going to detract from video performance. Come on in. In. Sorry. Critters. I know. Sorry. I should have thought of it ahead of time. I should have said, okay, you're gonna have the cat's gonna do the routine. You know, it does this midnight thing for whatever reason now. Probably because I indulge it. Yeah, that's probably it. And so, you know, he doesn't want just dry food, so I have to give him something extra. And then he'll nap for a bit, and then he'll go back out. There you go. Okay, well, that wasn't so bad. Sorry, I don't want to edit the video. I don't want to have to... The files are too big, and the program I have that actually does combine files rather efficiently won't tolerate a file over 2 gigabytes. And I'm sure this one's going over 2 gigabytes. Quite sure. Anyway, on this camera anyway. Should have used the other camera, but then people complain it looks too 1940s then. Anyway. Alright, so I'll play a little bit of Hofladay. And, alright, so he's trying to be agreeable, but he's, you know, it's in the same pigeonhole or straw man kind of way, like, oh, we agree on something. No, we don't agree. So yes, we agree on the forward thing. But even in the forward example, if you had light bouncing back and forth in front of you, at the same time you shined a flashlight ahead, and you saw the light leaving you at the speed of light, then the light bouncing back and forth would look all wrong, because it would look like it was bouncing back and forth twice as fast as it should be, going twice as fast as light should go. So all these thought experiments, you have to kind of turn it into something where we can actually see the light. So let's just pretend, for the sake of argument, that light doesn't go insanely fast, and it goes regularly slow, like 1 foot a second. When you slow it down, you can see that it's just not going to work, because if you're time dilating the forward light to go faster, you've time dilated the side-to-side light into going insanely faster. It was going the speed of light, now you've made it perceptually much, much faster than the speed of light, twice as fast, in fact. So that experiment doesn't even work, in the sense that there is sort of a paradox, that you have to see light going twice the speed of light, and you know, that sort of breaks logic. That certainly would give it away, that, oh yeah, I'm going faster than the speed of, I'm going very fast if I'm seeing that wrong. And again, the outside observer in the second thought experiment with the stupid light bouncing back and forth, the outside observer is going to see that the light's going faster. That's what he has to see, because it's traveling the longer distance. Again, if you think of the photon as an independent agent, and all you're really talking about is, here's the present state, and this is the length of the line, and here's the future state. This line is much longer, and that's the line it has to travel to get to the hole. So if you just think of it as present state, future state, the future state can't get to the hole, because light can't travel faster to do it. It's not a baseball. It can't carry the extra momentum necessary to get to the further away future position. I mean, I said this in the last video, and it's like, I might as well not say this stuff, because neither the commenters nor this person pay any attention. But I've been over this. It's a time issue, and he's not even paying any attention to the time issue. Like, it's not even mentioned. Like, time doesn't matter. The whole subject's about time. Yeah. Alright. So, we'll just jump through it.
You could get it to go through the hole. And then later, you get wrapped up in about the same time, that it's always longer, blah, 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 blah.
Okay, so you could get, yeah, it's always longer, blah, 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 blah. You see what he just did? Yeah, yeah, that's important. Longer distance means something. It means the light can't get there. Okay, well, you want to go back out? Is that what you're saying? Well, you can have it that way. Or you can go in your chair. Which one are you going to do? Which one do you want? Come on. Make up your mind. You want to go out? Okay, go out. Meow. No, you're not getting more food. That's not happening. Yeah. Alright, yeah, go back outside. Yes. Good. Probably good. I mean, it's nice when he sits in here and is quiet. There's no problem, but probably good for him to get fresh air and all that crap. You know, live the natural life a little bit in his little carpeted house. Anyway, alright, so he blah blah blahed right through the time issue and the distance issue, which is critical to this whole thought experiment. And again, the aiming issue, which I'm pointing out, is not possible. You can't aim to a position because that position won't be the same time-wise. This time will be different than this time. This time is the wrong way to say it. This time, the amount of time light takes to go from here to here will be a different position than the amount of time. If I give the same amount of time to the forward movement is still going to take the hole ahead of where you aimed. So as long as light travels in a straight line, you can't do that. The only way you can aim it at some position and get it to go through the hole would to have it hook in there somehow, bend in. But straight lines it's not mathematically possible with straight lines.
I think you forget for the moment that the light is going the light speed and the hole is only going the spaceship speed. So if light speed is faster, because light speed is faster than the hole, yeah, the time is variable. The time distance across is the same, and the lengths are variable, but you can tilt it. But it's okay because speed of light is going faster than the hole.
Yeah. So you heard him say it. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's in the same amount of allotment of time. It's at the allotment of time that you have to get somewhere, and the distance is it's growing, not exponentially, but it's growing substantially as you turn this angle. You're increasing the amount of distance you have to travel. And like I said, you have to always take whatever the amount of time it takes for you to get from that. If you just measure the amount of time, if you just pick a point on the side of the ship and say, I want to hit this point here, from here. So that's what you're aiming at. So you just figure out how long it takes at the speed of light to get to this point. And when you find that out, let's say it's 2 seconds or something, you'll find out that in 2 seconds, this ship hole moved to here. And so you're still short. You still can't hit it. Okay. Because it keeps moving. Alright, jump ahead a little.
Notice this, but and it is interesting, but at the same time it's still useful. Yes, if you are correct, then that would be a means of measuring your speed. Okay, and that's right. And I'm trying to set aside our differences here a little bit and form at least some common ground and agreement about things. If the first part of my video...
Yeah, okay, well look, we've got some common ground on the idea of perceptions being wrong. But there's not going to be any common ground about the physics of a light clock. So, that subject, I can't give any ground because, like I said, what you're proposing is that photons are baseballs. And I'm saying that no, they're not. They don't carry more than one momentum. They don't fool you like a baseball. They're not going this way at the same time they're going that way.
We're on the same page of, well, it was an explanation to others. Because you said they're in disagreement with us, saying that it really does leave at the speed of light. Well, no, not in the frame of reference, the larger frame of reference between the planets, because that's to say it makes the spaceships.
Okay. Well, yeah, whatever. Well, 330 says something.
Still from those frame of references. So that's it. You shoot a beam of light out of your spaceship, and that's it. The brakes are on. Anyhow, so we're in agreement on that. I think we can get agreement that you can turn the beam. Yeah, that's all I need from you is agreement that you can turn the beam, and I'm in agreement that...
No. So I'm just saying, yeah, I agree that you can turn it, but you can't turn it to hit the hole. The hole is always going to evade you. Because you keep trying to make the time synchronize, and it doesn't synchronize. That's why you can't do this. You can't do it when the hole's here. You can't do it when the hole's here. You can't do it when the hole's here. You can't do it when the hole's in any of these positions. Why do you think you can do it up here? It's the same violation. It's the same too much distance. Not enough time for the light to get there.
That would be a measurement of speed. Now, the disagreement is...
Yeah, no, and the disagreement is that the whole point of special relativity, one of the premises of it, is that the laws of physics are all the same in any one of these stupid velocity frames. And the point is, you get the same results with the same experiment. You won't get the same results if you're going different speeds with a light clock, because light doesn't care about your frame.
Is I say you don't have to turn it. You say you do have to turn it.
A monstrously huge disagreement. I mean, just about as big a disagreement as you can get. That's right. I say the photon goes straight across, and the side of the ship moves out of the way, and therefore the photon does not hit where you think you should, because and let's say you're standing right in front of it, and the beam is going to go right up in front of you. Yes, what I'm saying is that the beam's going to hit you, because you're going to move right into it. You're moving that way. The photon's moving that way. It's not moving that way and that way. No, it's just moving that way. That's the simplest way I can make the argument. Photon's doing one thing. It's going that way towards a planet 4 trillion light years away that you could see out the window. It's not heading for that planet over there. It's heading for that one over there. That's where it's going.
Okay. Well, then I say, okay, the point of it is that we could give the captain of the spaceship a black.
Well, this didn't make any sense at all, so we'll jump ahead. We could give him a box, and the box is a light clock that's broken. It can't possibly work. Sorry. It really can't possibly work. Alright, anyway, 5 o'clock. 5-ish. A little earlier, maybe.
It off in sharing the frame of the planet. We call that the rest frame. And come on, speed up, catch up camera, autofocus, too much going on maybe. It's the autofocus. If I'm moving around,
so it's a rest frame.
I've been switching it off and trying, but I was never entirely convinced. But I'm now convinced autofocus.
I have to wait till it gets to it, I guess.
The point is from that frame of reference, you could put a force meter in your spaceship and you accelerate.
Oh, okay. It's this acceleration thing. No, look, the whole point of special relativity is you don't know how fast you're going. You don't have recorded history. You're just going. Okay? You didn't board the train got up to speed, you watched it out the window. No, the whole point is let's say you're ignorant of those circumstances. The argument is there's nothing inside your frame that'll tell you how fast you're going. That's the argument. That's the premise. Just like the Heisenberg thing. It's stated as if this is a solid truth. There's no instrumentality that could possibly derive through a mechanical means evidence of your velocity. So no acceleration allowed.
1G for 6 months there, and you'll get
Right. So all this is irrelevant. Sorry. I mean, it's just not relevant. Oh, man, I can't. I guess you need to go out for other reasons, and so he doesn't want to stay out there. Jeez. Now the other cats want something. Now I have to feel like a cruel, mean person. Yeah, see, there's his chair. Yes, pretty much. Yeah. No, I think you got all you're going to get. From me, anyway. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's just, care and maintenance of feeling creatures is just something I have no... fatigues me.
Some fractional speed of light, and you can call that your rough, speed.
Right. Okay. So anyway, so this is just you're not getting to the core issue, which is the underlying premise of the whole theory, which is that these somehow we don't have to be accountable for absolutes because our relative frames are just take care of everything for us. And no, it's not like that. You're still living in an absolute universe, and the relativists are attempting to break the rules of that hard universe. Alright, well, let's play a little more of this
Your
part.
calculation. If everything was the more accurate you could measure that acceleration, the more accurate you'd know your final speed. And there's nothing out of accordance with special relativity in knowing your speed that way.
Yeah, I already know that part, clearly. That's not the point.
I.e. measuring your acceleration from the start point. And also because special relativity negates knowledge of acceleration. Accelerated reference frames comes in general relativity. So forgetting that.
Yes, you should never even mentioned it because it's really not even part of this argument in any way whatsoever. But okay, fine.
The point is the spaceship can get out and the captain gets his box out. And to his knowledge, this is a light clock now. We both agree, I hope, that this is a light clock.
No, we don't both agree. I don't agree that the light goes forward, that you can reflect it off these angles, and that it measures time accurately. Or that you kept on the mirrors, because you didn't. So whatever. Not without light going faster than the speed of light. You didn't stay on the mirrors unless the light went faster than the speed of light. Alright, now we'll move to 8 something or other here. And just...
Across, doesn't it? Okay.
Well, I guess I have to see what he's being patronizing about there. Everything's patronizing.
He just sees his hole and he sees a light beam come out, but he watches it and he watches it in his spacecraft, and it appears to be bouncing across, doesn't it? Okay.
No, I mean, again, I'm not going to argue the thing 4 million times, okay? I don't accept your premise. I don't accept the premise that the light goes forward at all. I mean, that's just why. How does it know to go forward? I mean, it's just all bullshit.
And the external observer spacecraft, he sees it doing this pointy forward bit, okay? And he sees
Yes, this pointy forward bit, which is a longer line. How many times do I have to say it? The pointy forward bit is a longer line, and you have to do it in the same amount of time as the perpendicular line. The straight across line, the straightest, shortest distance between the surface of the ship and the emitter. That shortest distance, you have to do this longer distance in the same amount of time. That's what the outside observer sees. He sees light go way too far, way too fast to do what you say it does. He sees light go faster than the speed of light.
Is it? And that is all you need. If you ask yourself, what each observer sees, and also factor in the fact that each observer will measure the speed of light as the speed of light, then unfolds the calculus of special relativity and the Lorentz transformations and the anomaly of seeming time being slowed in the spaceship.
Yeah, in the spaceship. So again, you can make all these excuses for in the spaceship, but I'm still saying it's not going to fix the fundamental problems. Like I said, I could have a light clock going back and forth this way and shoot light forward, and the time dilation that makes the forward light zoom ahead is going to make the light going back and forth go way too fast. So right there, that breaks it. But the outside observer is your problem. You can't fix how everything he sees is fundamentally violating the laws of physics, because he sees light go a longer distance in the same amount of time it took it to do this short distance.
The only controversy in this light clock thought experiment is a contention between us about the fact that I say it's just a regular light clock inside pointing perpendicular, and you say no, when you open it you find a broken time clock, ultimately measure the distance.
I don't even know what that meant. I don't even know how to interpret that part. You're saying you open it and it's just a regular light clock going back and forth. Well, it's not when you're moving half the speed of light.
Got done.
Alright, more camera issues. Let's just finish up.
Same time. No, it doesn't.
let me back up.
Whatever. Right.
Oh.
So, what's the problem with that? It's nothing to do with this has to do something in the same time. No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does. Okay, so fuck you. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's just silly. The distance, how far the hole gets away from you, is going to be dictated by time. So it damn well does matter how fast this time is to get to the hole. That time is going to matter. It has everything to do with time. Speed is time. Speed is distance. And if you believe in light having a constant speed and it moves in a straight line, then it's not compatible with this rubbish.
If I'm going to run if we're playing, let's say, American football, yeah, and I'm the defender, and you know, the guy's there's a wee bit of linebacker, and he's coming down here, and I run across, and I miss him, boom, and I go, no, but I use my time travel power, reverse time, yeah.
Well, you don't even need to do that. You just need to play the same play over again. But fine.
And I go, this time I'll set up at this direction, and I go, and I'm missing again. But it's okay, I use my time travel power and I reverse it, yeah? Each time I keep missing him, where I get closer, the journey was longer. But because, let's say, I'm faster than he, yeah? When I find the right angle, yes, it takes longer than it took me to run there, but I'm running faster. I get to catch.
I get to catch. So, again, the point is it's, you know, again, to do that, you have to go much faster. Much faster. So again, you're making the light go even faster. So you can't, I just used the baseball analogy again. You can just imagine, you're trying to throw it through the first window of the bus, from the back of the bus. Which window do you have to throw the baseball harder to get it through? The one all the way forward or the one right next to you? It requires more momentum. You know, I mean, I probably have to come up with another different drawing that demonstrates the trigonometry better here. But I mean, just saying that, again, if you just take the idea that, okay, this is where I'm going to hit it, right at this point. Okay, this is your baseline then for time. You know, so how long did it take to get here? And then if you apply that to the speed of this thing going forward, that line again becomes your baseline. So, you know, for the maths purpose, the baseline just got wider. The ship got wider, essentially, in a sense, to this new line. And then to hit that spot, you know, this would be the equal to the spot, you're still going to come up short. Because the ship is moving. So anyway, you can't go even further into the future and have less time problems. You have more time problems because you're making the angle even worse. I've already said it. No point in going over it. Yeah, so that won't solve your problem. If the light goes where you aimed it, there won't be a hole there. Yeah. Alright. So enough of that. We'll deal with some written comments. Tedious. I'll just say it again. For the people who are saying they're not making light into a baseball, how are you treating photons different than how you would treat a baseball in the same scenario? You're pretending that a photon is just like a baseball and that it's going faster. Okay. Well, I don't know, divergent dichotomy. I don't see what use this some people just write 4-word bullshit. Divergent, convergent, dichotomy, / paradox, question mark. I mean, yeah, this video didn't have anything to do with any of that shit. Alright, somebody called Lena Engineer. Yeah, it was kind of an incomprehensive, a little bit hard to, positive, but, I won't get into it because it's not written very well. So this Charles guy says, these people are religious zealots. There's only one reality, and they want their many worlds and time travel to exist. And, let's see, special relativity isn't about many worlds or time travel. Says the chemistry is a brain hurt, was, whatever silly, stupid name that is. You're confused about that like most people. Well, you just conceded that most people. So you've just conceded his argument. That most of you people are. Most people are, so that fits right in. So, thank you. Yes, most movies don't do physics correctly, and most people have a completely wrong perception. And many of you are in the category of most people, as far as I can tell. Gary is right, though. You people go through the first idea you people go with the first idea they have. Galileo didn't know about photons. He was the first to make his theory, so now photons have to be like baseballs. I mean, fuck, even I know they can't go faster than light. Yay. So finally, don't get too many good comments, but he turns into a bit of a jerk later, but, and I don't think photons, so this is chemistry, and I don't think photons are at all like baseballs. Another thing you can't figure out. Well, again, I can't figure it out from your argument, because to defend what you're saying happens, they have to be just like baseballs. They have to be able to have two momentums. The photon is released, and you're saying it goes on this, it travels this way and that way. Like the baseball, two momentums converted into one vector. So, explain to me how a baseball's trajectory would be different than a photon's by your model of a photon. Alright, then Mindless Marvels throws in a whole ton of crap. I can't believe I have to deal with all these arguments and on top of that have my motives questioned. It was a general statement. I'm just saying that I have to figure out why people, when you make this rational argument explaining, well look, besides all the absolute nonsense that this whole relativity crap injects into science, all this silly time travel stuff and all the rest of this crap, if I'm giving you an argument explaining how, yes, we can all understand that mechanically the universe really can't work this way. I mean, there has to be things going no velocity, and we have things going the speed of light. And we know everything has to be going something in between, in some vector. Because every material thing does just like the baseball. All the material things do just like baseballs. They collect a bunch of momentums and go in and combine them into one direction. And that's what we're all doing. And every millisecond our direction is changed because we're in a whole bunch of complex different movements. So we're not only, it's like we're in a bus and we're, let's see, we're throwing the baseball and see how can I make it, and we're in spinning seats that are rotating, alright, as we're throwing the baseballs back and forth, and the rotating seats are also moving back and forth inside the bus. See, we're in a bunch of complex motions, and the baseball is adding all of those up, and in any 1 second it says, I'm going that way. And the next second it says, no, I'm going that way. And the next second it says, no, I'm going that way. 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 All the time it gets reconverted into a new vector. But photons don't do that. Forces don't do that. They leave, and they're not in any, there's nothing that can interrupt them. Nothing that changes what they do. They travel distance and time, period. And nothing else happens unless they hit some matter. Alright, guess what? Much of, as Inmendham keeps equating an absolute frame to there being one reality, well, that's, sort of connected in a very direct way, retard. I have not heard him give a single argument for why he is justified in saying that. So absolute and one, those two words don't go together. Well, I think they kind of do. So you question the existence of more than one reality, and then you're saying you're being slandered or put into a category of kooks, and here you are saying something kooky. What's your justification for creating any more than one reality? Why would we even speculate on the possibility? Is there a single shred of evidence of any other reality? No. So you're just making up the evidence. And that's what this crap is about, is making excuses for creating wacky world. And there are philosophers of physics, so you know how much I hate that phrase. So he just says that anyway. Philosophers of physics. No, there's science, and philosophy is a subcategory of science. There's not philosophers of physics. You might say it the other way around. There are physicists of philosophy, but there's no. Both are seeking an accurate description of reality. And if you're not doing that, you're not a philosopher. And if you're not doing that, you're not a physicist. That do give arguments for presentism. So even somebody come up with a word like presentism. Like I should somehow have some doubt about the reality of the present. That we fly right through it, from going from the past to the future. Yes, the present's very small, but you definitely pass through it. Shit. I mean, it's just, you know. So again, you're finding it offensive to be categorized as a loop-de-doo fanatic, and then you throw a bunch of loop-de-doo rhetoric in your fucking crap. Anyway, that do give arguments for presentism, absolute frames, and so on. Well, can you show me a physicist, not a philosopher of physics? What the fuck is a philosopher of physics anyway? I've never even seen somebody with that title, philosopher of physics. So why don't you name a name for a change? But I have not heard Mendham justify his statements. Why should I have to justify my atheism? You know, demonstrate some of this shit, and then you can talk about it. But till then, it's just a talking bear. You say you saw a talking bear. You saw him talk. Sorry, I didn't see it. All he does, as far as I can hear, is just say that we're breaking our own laws of physics. No, I'm saying you apparently have no respect for, you can't figure out what is a law and what is a bad idea. You can't tell the difference between the two. That's the problem. You make silly things laws, like Heisenberg, and like this stupid, there's no experiment that can tell you how fast you're going. Yes, there is. Or something like that, which is just such an annoying straw man. Well, obviously it's not a straw man. You demonstrate it in your own rhetoric. Philosophers of physics, presentism. Yeah, that's enough right there to say, yes, that's gobbledygook. The only concrete argument he has is the argument with the light clock. Well, I mean, frankly, I could make it any force clock. Anything that moves the speed of light, any force I could use and make a clock out of that force, and it's going to have the same limitation. So I'm including all the forces. So again, don't try to make this like, oh, this has no significance. No, this has plenty of significance. None of the forces will play the game you want them to play. And keep saying that it does not violate relativity. It's not about violating relativity. Isn't it amazing? So again, look how he twists the words. The only concrete argument he has is the argument with the light clock. And I keep saying that it does not violate relativity. Amazing. My argument is it violates reality, not relativity. Reality. You're violating reality. The claim isn't you haven't violated relativity. The claim is you violated reality. You violated the constancy of the speed of light. You people go with the first idea they have. So that's a quote. You know what's ironic is that Galileo actually overturned Aristotelian concepts of motion and energy. There's nothing ironic about it, okay? I mean, you know, the fact that they got some things right doesn't mean they got everything right. And we know that. The more the ratio gets worse, the further back you go. So, keep pretending that there isn't a difference between stuff that's established by a volume of evidence and stuff that's established by everybody just says, I like that idea. Who cares if it's true? That already is enough to disprove your statement. So amazing. So again, he says because he's right about one thing, it means he's right about everything. And it doesn't matter how ignorant he was, how far past his knowledge base he was reaching. Amazing. But even then, people were more than willing to give up the notion of relativity when people discovered the consistency of light. People were more than willing to give up the notion of relativity. I guess they went back to it again? Is that the idea? I don't know. I don't even know what that means. So they gave it up and then they went back to it again? All of the concerns that Emendem has have been the entire topic of debate during the 1900s. All of the concerns that Emendem have been, what? All of the concerns that Emendem, it's draft science by the way, okay, this should have been a comma, have been the entire topic of debate during the 1900s. Einstein made his theory specifically to solve all those paradoxes. So Einstein thought of all of them, huh? Wow. Amazing. He thought of every possible thought experiment. I wonder why he told other people thought experiments. I wonder why he challenged other people with thought experiments. Shouldn't he have assumed that they knew all the thought experiments that were possible already? I mean, it's another pretentious pile of shit. This is genuinely getting debilitating. I'm trying to explain how analyzing compounds of motion works. Analyzing components of motion works. And I'm the one getting called an idiot and religious zealot. I'm trying to explain how analyzing components of motion works. Yeah, one of the components you're missing is that you can't make light travel faster. You're missing that one. Over and over and over again. And for the record, I don't give a fuck about time travel or anything. Whatever way reality turns out, I'll go with it. Why do you people have to question my motives like that? Well, look, it wasn't a specific remark. It was a remark to a class of people who seem totally uninterested in the details, acknowledging the arguments that have been made, and they just keep defending it as if it's a dogma, as if it is really a religious text, and you can't possibly find a loophole in it. And if you do, they're going to just pretend it doesn't exist. It's like somebody showing up with the first fossils, probably. And they just keep saying, no, you made that, you faker. Alright, then Mindless says to this guy, I forgot to say a few things. Oh, yes, of course. Go on and on some more. You know what's amazing is that Hathaway himself is a presentist. So again, he's using this word presentist. I mean, when did that word get into the vocabulary? 3 days ago? I think Hathaway himself wants more concrete, less abstract notions of physics. So it doesn't matter. Hathaway is, his inconsistency is grotesque. Because yes, whatever he says about the fact that, oh yeah, I don't like this about it, and I don't like that about it, and then 5 seconds later he'll make in his argument, he'll say, it's the most proven geometric model ever. The geometry is excellent, perfect, and answers all the questions. I mean, you can't have it both ways. He doesn't want time travel or anything. He has made sympathetic statements to Emendem's views plenty of times. And he's made exactly the opposite of sympathetic statements. The exact opposite of those, which are statements defending the current model as being indestructibly perfect. It is just so magnificently excellent. It's got every single detail covered, and there's absolutely no flaw whatsoever. I mean, fuck. He's doing it right here. Oh, the math and this time dilation and the contraction length and thingy, that all takes care of it. No problems. No, it doesn't. You need width contraction to fix it. Anyway, like I said, people knew there was a oh, wait a minute. Plenty of times. The idea of putting labels on other people like that, like what label? Like asshole? Okay. Like calling them religious, retarded horsefucker is just so unnecessary. Well, I agree that when the Charles Munger guy said, fuck off, horsefucker. That is, I don't see the point of that. I mean, not until he says something about you being an idiot or something. You gotta wait till he calls you an idiot. Or insults your intelligence in a gratuitous way. Like I said, people knew there was a contradiction between Galilean relativity and the consistency of the speed of light. Well, again, the whole idea that Galileo had any evidence from which to base a theory of relativity on is so nonsensical, is so silly. It's absolutely silly. He had drinking tea in a rowboat. That was the extent of his complex experiments. He had no fucking experimental evidence from which to base the goddamn theory on. Nothing. No range, no volume of experiments at very high speeds. Nothing. I mean, shit, and you don't call that overreaching? People knew that, and people still know that. Maxwell himself talked about Michelson-Morley experiment ahead of its time. What? Maxwell himself talked about the Michelson-Morley experiment ahead of its time. They were contemporaries as far as I recall. So again, and I've already pointed out how that whole experiment, again, you still haven't pointed out to me how a beam splitter isn't a diffraction gradient, and how the light that goes through the splitter first diffracts through all of its path, gets wider and wider, the beam spreads more and more and more, and the beam that goes through it last just gets spread a tiny, tiny bit. You haven't dealt with that, and yet you bring up Michelson-Morley like it means something. It doesn't mean shit. This is where Einstein came in specifically to resolve the apparent contradictions. Yes, Einstein was aware of all of these things. That's right. That's what makes it pisses me off a little bit, because people keep talking about how Einstein predicted. He didn't predict. He came up with a gimmick to fix. But people were already talking about the possible relationship between time and velocity. People were already talking about these things. So it wasn't like Einstein predicted time dilation. And Mendham is making arguments for why Galilean relativity fails. No, I'm making an argument while special relativity fails, so keep playing a game. I'm telling you, you can't make light go faster than the speed of light. And everyone agrees with him, for fuck's sake. I don't know, FFS, I don't know what that means. Everyone like who? But you can't use rhetoric for why Galilean relativity fails as a means to justify why Einstein relativity, a completely different theory, fails. That's called straw manning. Well, again, where am I at any point in this conversation not dealing with time dilation, accepting it as a notion that human perception breaks? What you can't break is the fact that in the present, the whole is this far away. In the future, the whole is this far away. That's what you're not dealing with. Alright, somebody says to Mindless, Mindless, you realize that you are misplacing your intellect by writing all those blocks of text, right? I don't even know what that means. Do you realize you're misplacing your intellect by not asking if you're like fries with that? Oh, yeah, okay. Anyway, so here's another mindless piece of drivel. But the photon would come out crooked. But that is such a cheat. It wouldn't get emitted at all if it was doing this fake direction thing. In that scenario, the photon is coming out with the laser tube. There's no inconsistency here. In that scenario, the photon is coming out the laser tube. There's no inconsistency here. I don't even know what that means. Of course, there's a huge problem because where the photon is created is where it leaves from, not the end of a lens. It would be in your scenario where the problem is swept by the laser tube. No, in both scenarios they're swept, they're just swept at different locations. And again, I didn't concede that they wouldn't get swept by mine. I'm saying the very fact is the laser not working would be indication of your speed. And clearly the problem could be resolved by opening a slit in the side of the laser, and whatever side it's open on, then you'll see which way the light goes. But I'm just saying that we can't prove it, but I'm just saying, you know, you can keep arguing that your photons do this bullshit, but you don't have any evidence they do this bullshit. And again, you're just not going to be able to fix the speed problem, because the photon is coming straight out, but the laser is moving from the side, as I have already explained previously. And again, the angle you're shooting it at, even though your side of the laser is moving away, your angle is too sharp and you're going to hit it. No one is saying the photon is a classical baseball. You are strawmanning this again and again. Okay, I don't know how many times to say it. Every animation you've shown, everything you've done, okay, has required the photon to go faster than the speed of light. There's no other way. It can get to the hole. So you can keep saying it's a straw man. It's the entirety of the argument in a sense. You can't go a non-straight line, and not the shortest distance is this. You're saying I can do a longer distance in the same amount of time. That's what you're saying. How is that not like a baseball? You have to give it more velocity. There's nothing else you can change. It moves in a straight line at a constant speed. You don't have any variables left. There's no variable left. What can you change? Except make the distance shorter. And you sure as fuck can't do that without the outside observer saying, holy fuck, that's messed up. Seriously, does anyone find these arguments in the video to make sense? So he's asking a sarcastic question as if it's too complicated. Me saying photons aren't baseballs. He doesn't explain how he's not claiming that. He just claims he's not claiming that. But people can't understand the difference. Okay? Photons can't carry two momentums. Again, if I move a flashlight this way as I turn it on, right? I move the flashlight this way. You don't think the photons actually travel this way and that way, do you? You don't think they're going both ways, do you? And have a vector in that direction? Okay. So I pointed out, I said, oh no, to make sense, I have already addressed them on and on. Well, again, so he keeps claiming he's taking care of something that was an argument right from the very beginning. It's always been an argument that you don't have enough time to get to the whole. I mean, I was saying that in videos a year ago, so bullshit. This is literally getting to be the point of insanity. Well, whatever. I think the argument that you still can't sit there and demonstrate to me one difference between your model and the model of a baseball. Go ahead and show me how your model differs from what a baseball does. Longer distance, same amount of time. Okay, that's what I said. Longer distance, same amount of time. How have you addressed this? Okay, let's see if he says something here. It would be longer distance and longer amount of time to an outside observer. So why would the time be longer to an outside observer? Why? I mean, it would be a longer distance and a longer amount of time to an outside observer. Why would he see the light move slow? Why would he see the light have more time to get to the future? The outside observer isn't seeing the photon take the shortcut. The outside observer is seeing it go forward. He's seeing it go the longer distance. So the truth is exactly the opposite of what you're saying. Which makes sense because the people in the ship are time dilated accordingly. And again, I don't see their time dilation won't help them in the reality, but even in your scenario, making the light, their delusion that the light's going faster doesn't make the light go faster, so it still can't get to the hole. I mean, it's already part of Hosladay's premise is that, yes, if I shoot the flashlight ahead of myself when I'm going half the speed of light, the light doesn't actually, okay, move away from the spaceship at the speed of light. That's what you see. What you see isn't actually happening. And the same would be true in that spaceship. So the light can't get to the hole because it doesn't have enough time to get there. Shit. Alright. Alright, then he says another thing. You should just make them one comment, reference the other comments, I think, but whatever. And there is a way for the photon to be aimed specifically so that its along component of the motion is always aligned with the ship. And as I stated, it doesn't matter if you, wherever you say you're aiming, the hole won't be there. Alright. This way, there is no way for the hole to outrun the laser light. Well, again, it will if you obey the obligatory math, which is you have to, again, if you can't make the photon go faster, you're stuck. Alright, so I said, longer amount of time to an outside observer. I put that in quotes. You can't do that because the hole will be in a further away place in a longer amount of time. So yes, if you give it more time, the hole's just going to end up further away. Baseballs would have to go faster, and so would a photon. So again, the argument is if I'm in the back seat of the bus, I want to throw the ball out the front window, I have to throw the ball harder than if I want to throw it out the second window or the 15th window or the one right perpendicular to myself. I have to impose more energy. Alright, draft science. That's where slowed metabolism kicks in. That solves the so-called paradox. So you're not even close on the subject. The paradox is a time problem, not a perception problem. You can't, the only way the light goes a longer distance is it has to travel a faster speed. It's the only way to fix it. So you have to concede that it goes faster than the speed of light, and there's no other way to fix it. And there is a way for the photon to be aimed specifically so that its along component of motion is always aligned with the ship. So he's quoting himself. This is Mindless Marvels. This way, there is no way for the hole to outrun laser light. So he's quoting himself again, I guess. I literally addressed your point in the comment below. I literally knew you would say this. It's the most incomprehensible pile of mush you've ever written. How does this make any sense? You'll never come up with any geometry aiming the laser and go a straight line with that laser and hit the hole. If you obey the time rules. If you measure how long it took for the laser light to go to a point, and then you move the ship, the hole, that same amount of time distance at the speed of the ship, the two will never line up. Alright, so Mindless says to somebody named Chemistry. No, he's not talking about time dilation. Well, so he's telling the other idiot it's not about perception. He's now saying that the hole itself will move away from the will move away before the photon gets to the other side. I'm saying that there's no synchronicity between the movement of the hole and the speed of the diagonal line. It'll never be, you can't, just as you couldn't, anything off the perpendicular. Perpendicular is the shortest line.